Hey everyone, welcome to, I think this, Nichelle, is the 12th episode
Oh,
of
wow.
Get Baked. Can you believe 12 weeks we have been doing this? We have been coming live to you, talking about our favorite baking topics. I am Babette Pepe. I am one of the co-hosts of Get Baked. And my co-host is Nichelle Stevens. Nichelle, do you want to say hi and tell us, what are you doing right now? What are you working on?
Actually kind of straightening up my room, kind of off and on. Nothing too glamorous. I dyed my hair today. That's about it.
You and
Yeah.
I are like on the same wavelength. I'm thinking of doing it completely like a pale pastel pink, but I digress.
Mhm.
Today's topic, as you guys know who are watching, if you're tuning in on Google Plus, on Twitter, on Facebook, pretty much on YouTube, pretty much everywhere that you can get video, we are streaming live. If you're tuning in, use our hashtag GetBaked. Usually on Twitter and on Google Plus, we follow that, and then on our YouTube channel, if you want to leave a message, definitely subscribe to the channel, but then leave a comment, and we'll be checking that through the entire show. If you have any questions on the topic or for our co-hosts, or if you have questions for our guests, we definitely will get those answered live on the show today. So this topic today is very close to my heart. It's about vegan baking. I'm a vegetarian. I've been a vegetarian for about 7 years now, and I have been having a hard time transitioning my baking into like even just the vegetarian world, but just the idea of being able to completely go 100% and not use eggs or not use some of the animal product has been a huge dream of mine to be able to do. So I'm super excited. Nichelle, what about you? Do you have any experience in vegan baking?
Um, Eating vegan products, but not necessarily baking them. I think one of the things is that I think a chocolate cupcake is probably the best test case for vegan baking. As Issa and Natalie, because I think you can kind of forgive a lot if you have some good chocolate.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. I would probably agree. Have you ever gone through like the phase where you've become a vegetarian or anything like that?
Oh no, I've given up red meat before.
Not yet, not yet. Maybe after
Not
this chat.
Well, actually, I have lots of friends who are vegetarian, and if I eat with them a lot, I can be vegetarian. I'm not anti being vegetarian. I just like meat. That's all I can say.
All right. Well, for those of you who are watching, we're going to convert Nichelle by the end of the show. So stick with me. Use our hashtag GetBaked to give us your support and to bring Nichelle back from the dark side into the happy side of the world. Okay, I want to introduce our guests, and they're going to do a little bit of an introduction about a little bit about their background as well. Issa, now, do you say, is it Chandra Moskowitz?
That works, yep.
Perfect. Now, you guys may know her for Postpunk Kitchen. It's a very popular website, and also she is the author of several of the top vegan, especially one of my favorites, I have it here, is my Vegan Cupcakes Take Over the World. Now, that's a very cool book. I love the size of it because it's like, I have it, but it's in my collection, and now it's in the kitchen. But it's like a cute little square where it's easy to like take with you. You can have it in the kitchen, and you can just I think the types of recipes I think are just absolutely fantastic. And we also have Natalie Slater. Now Natalie I've known for a very long time, and she's out of Chicago. Issa, you're in Nebraska now.
Yeah.
How did you get there?
Oh, it's a long story. Witness protection program mostly.
well, we'll find out more about that in a second. Now, Natalie is chiming in from Chicago. We actually had Natalie speak at our food blogger conference, Tech Munch, in Chicago, and it was so awesome to finally meet you, Natalie, after all these years of knowing you and following you and seeing your son grow up. It was a super pleasure to see that you were the real deal. And I love the tattoos. They're very cool.
Thank you. Yeah, it was great being there.
So, Issa, do you want to tell us a little bit about your background and sort of what made you go vegan, and also a little bit about some of how the cookbooks came about, and we'll start from there, and then we'll ask Natalie the same question to kind of give the people who are watching at home an idea of who they're talking to, especially if they're new to the topic or if they're new to you guys. Issa, do you want to start?
Sure. I went vegan about 20-something years ago. I loved animals, and so once I started realizing I didn't have to use animal products, or I could be vegan, then I started baking and cooking vegan, and it's been doing it ever since. And I started back then. It was the 80s, so we had no internet or anything. We had no telephones or electricity. And
How did you connect with folks? How did you connect with folks who were interested in the same thing you were interested in?
Through the punk rock community, I started doing zines and just having potlucks and things like that, and just started baking and writing recipes for myself and my friends. And then I started a public access TV show a few decades later, and from there it just led to the cookbooks and stuff.
Well, that's really cool. Now that you see how just the world is taken over by bloggers who are so focused on a certain topic, are you amazed at the amount of vegan-themed blogs that are out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. We do this event, Vegan Mofo, every year, the Vegan Month of Food. So it's just fun getting everybody involved and sharing recipes and stuff like that. So
I've never heard a great acronym like that. It's like the best acronym for an event. Nichelle, in New York, because Nichelle just moved from New York to Atlanta, did you guys have a lot of vegan events in town? Oh, is she frozen? Nichelle?
No, I'm not frozen. I just had to unmute myself. I mean, yes, I think there's actually a vegan food fair, a food festival that happens in New York. There's plenty. As someone who is not a vegan eater, I don't necessarily attend those things, but there's definitely a lot of awareness about it, and I think it's grown significantly over the past few years. But Issa started from like a offline community, so when she went online, I'm sure she was able to build up a base fairly quickly. But now people start online, either through meetups or through blogs, or they just find people as word of mouth online. So I think that's great that you don't have to be in a big city to live, have a vegan lifestyle.
I totally agree. That's kind of interesting that you are doing, because everyone now is so technology savvy, and it's easy to just put up a web page and be like, hey, everyone, come and chat and we'll talk. And like how we're doing the show right now, it's like, hey, come and join us. What was that transition like for you to move online? Was it weird to have people have so much access to you, or was it cool because now you could reach everyone more efficiently, or what was that transition like?
Oh, it wasn't. It was natural. It didn't seem. It was fun because you can, instead of like communicating through finding a pen pal across the country, like you could just have it right then and there and start communicating immediately, start discussing baking methods. I think that really accelerated vegan baking because a lot of people could discuss what they've done and what's worked, what hasn't worked, and things like that. So it was really, when people ask why did vegan baking take off so much, it's really the internet. So it's cool.
Well, you and Natalie are both part of that sort of forge to bring that to the masses, definitely. So Natalie, tell us about your experience, because you have your experiences. You have online, you have a website, but then you evolved it into TV opportunities and then a cookbook. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that evolution?
Sure. Well, I became a vegetarian about 20 years ago, right out of high school, and it wasn't too long after that I started hearing about my friends going vegan and started becoming interested in that. And actually, Postpunk Kitchen and what Issa and Terry did there is everything I've done with Bake and Destroy couldn't have happened if they hadn't put all those resources online for somebody like me who was living kind of in a cornfield in the Midwest without any real access to like good recipes or a lot of people who are interested. So being able to look at Postpunk Kitchen and read their recipes and play around with them, and then eventually buy their cookbooks and all that sort of thing. I couldn't have done any of the things that I ended up doing with Bake and Destroy if they hadn't laid that foundation first. So I actually do. You were talking about vegan cupcakes, and I have my copy in front of me because I wanted to show you how all the pages are falling out, and it's like all worn. It's just, this book has got so much use and so much love in my house over the last, I don't know how many years, a lot of years. So yeah, if it wasn't for what Isa did first, then I couldn't have come along. No, I mean it. You're lucky I'm not crying.
I'm gonna cry. Now I'm in a cornfield.
But see, now you can be, because there's so much good access. So yeah, I started my website when my son was a newborn, and I had a lot of time on my hands, and it was just kind of a way to talk about what I was doing as a new mom and what I was baking while he was sleeping and that sort of stuff. And then eventually it turned into popping on different TV shows and doing vegan cupcake recipes, and eventually the book and that sort of thing. So the community is growing, and the internet has everything to do with that, and it's just really cool to see how many people are doing really interesting things with it.
What about the Cupcake Wars? How was that to work on?
I'm really grateful that I got to do it. It wasn't necessarily the best experience for me personally, because I don't think they were quite ready for exactly how tattooed I am. And so when I got there, they put me in a long sleeve shirt and like taped my shirt up so you couldn't see any of my tattoos, and it was really awkward for me, which is weird because now when you watch Food Network, like all the chefs are tattooed and it's not a big deal, so maybe I just was a little bit ahead of that trend, but yeah. So it was a little awkward, but later on I got to do the cooking channel, which was much more relaxed, and they like loved the tattoos, and they have a little quirkier shows on that channel than Food Network. So if Food Network's not watching, I would be happy to come back and try again. So
they're watching, trust me.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Was Violet Blue? Did she have that same situation when she was on Oprah, where they tried to cover her up because she had tattoos? I'm trying to remember this story. I don't know if it was Violet Blue or someone else, but anyway, it sounded like a similar thing where they really wanted someone's expertise, but they were not ready. But this is back in the day, so it's interesting how things have changed so quickly. So let's get into it as far as vegan baking is concerned. Give us a definition of vegan baking, because I think people just think it's about not using eggs. So what is allowed and what is not allowed? I think that would be the best place to start.
For me, it's vegan cooking and baking are just a whole new cuisine unto itself, and I mean, what's not allowed is animal products, and I like to use ingredients that are more in their whole form, so I try not to use fake things or things that are chemically processed too much, and that's pretty much vegan baking. I mean, you'll find a lot of the same ingredients over and over again, so using like things like flaxseed for eggs, using coconut oil instead of butter, and just making things delicious, not necessarily more healthy, but equally as delicious, and hopefully more so.
Yeah, I would say it's really just clever swaps. It's not really reinventing the wheel. It's replacing one fat for another fat. It's replacing one leavener for another leavener, or one binder for another binder. And once you kind of have those tricks down pat, then there's not really much to it. And I also prefer to use a whole food swap whenever possible. So I don't use a lot of like the boxed egg replacer or that sort of thing. I try to always use a flaxseed or a banana or something, real whenever I can.
Hey, Nichelle, I was going to let you know we got some folks who are watching on Google Plus right now. I just want to give a shout out and say hello and welcome. We have Katie Hubbard. I hope I said that name right. Charlene Nunez is also watching. And we have Eric Penor is also watching. And there's a whole bunch of other folks on Twitter as well who are chiming in. The Moon Muse is also on Twitter who just retweeted. And we have some other folks who are using the GetBake hashtag. If you have a question throughout the entire day, and of course I have Facebook open right now, so you may hear a ding. I don't know how to turn off notifications, people. But I have some of these pages open so we can see where we put the chat if you have any questions. Make sure you do that. And also on Twitter, use the hashtag GetBaked, all one word. All right, so I will leave it back to you, Nichelle, and I'm going to go check to see what's happening in the social sphere.
Okay. All right. So, what was your first cupcake recipe, Issa, that you developed or adapted from? Well, let me preface this by saying that we've had gluten-free baking chats, we've had paleo baking chats, and we started this term, which is kind of funny. May sound a little heteronormative, but we call it straight baking because it's the regular baking, okay. And everything else is alternative baking. But what did you convert a straight baking recipe, or did you start basically from scratch?
Yeah. Well, no, I started when I started baking. I started vegan baking. Like I didn't bake before I was vegan, so I just started with vegan stuff. And I mean, the most basic thing is a really simple chocolate cake recipe. I mean, people call it wacky cake or depression era cake, and it's just basically cake with no eggs. Who would have thunk it? And you're using vegetable oil and cocoa powder, and use soy milk instead of cow's milk, and that's pretty much most people's first vegan baking experience that they might have even done before they knew they were vegan baking.
Do you still use soy or?
Oh yeah, I use soy.
Okay.
I'm not anti-soy at all.
Okay.
I try not to use highly processed, isolated soy protein isolate or whatever. If it needs to be made in a lab, I'm not going to use it. But if it's a natural product, I'll use it. I consider tofu one of the best sources of protein and really versatile and delicious, and it's really great for vegan baking too, so I definitely use it.
Good to know. Same question, Natalie. What was your first... Just muted myself. Okay, let me unmute myself. Oh, Natalie, I posed the question of cupcake, but what was your first vegan baking experience? It could be cupcake or not, but I'm assuming cupcake because of your baking experience.
That would be a safe assumption. It was actually pretty similar to the Depression era cake that is a lot of people's first recipe, but it was a brownie instead. But I think the recipe is almost identical. It's basically vinegar and baking soda, cocoa powder, a couple other things. So that was my first kind of leap into vegan baking. I used to make those for a lot of my friends were in an independent wrestling league, and so I would make those brownies and they would have them in the back, and all the wrestlers would eat vegan brownies before they came out and did their matches. And nobody had any, nobody knew, so that's how I knew they were good.
That's a good test. That's a good test. If nobody asks a question, it's almost like you don't want to tell them. Just be like, here, eat these kale chips, and you won't even know what they are. That's great. We got Kitchen Shaman also just chimed in on Twitter. Hello. If you guys are following the hashtag, also follow each other when you're seeing other people use the hashtag, because those are your people. And they usually tune in every week, so to keep abreast of what they're doing, what they're cooking, and also what we're cooking up, definitely follow them. Do you guys notice that new bakers in vegan, they make a similar mistake? Is there something where you're always you'll get a comment on the blog post, or somebody will send you a tweet and they'll be like, my cupcakes or my bars or my cake turned out such and such. What did I do wrong? Is there any do you kind of know right away what they did wrong?
Well, usually they'll say it like, I used black beans instead of flour. So, whatever.
Black beans.
Where did I go wrong? So I'd say the biggest mistake is just not following the recipe the first time. Or the one big thing people are always doing now is leaving the oil out and replacing it with applesauce. And it's like, okay, no matter what, you're going to get a muffin. Like, have fun with your brownies, your cupcakes, your cookies. It's going to be a muffin.
Yeah, that is definitely not following the recipe is usually the culprit. Or when somebody will say, I made your recipe from your book, but I swapped in almond flour and I don't eat refined sugar, so I did this and that to it. It's like, well, you mess with it too much. That's what happened. But another thing that happens a lot that I've noticed is people are kind of afraid of the more whole food replacement for dairy, and they might go for like a prepackaged product. And the reason why I don't like to use those a lot of times is because they react strangely in certain recipes. So if a recipe is telling you to use flaxseed and warm water to replace egg, do that instead of using like the energy egg replacer, because it's going to make your whatever you're cooking, it's going to make the texture different, it's going to make the taste different. So definitely follow the recipe, and if there's something about it that you don't like, I would say look for a recipe that is closer to what you're looking for, or maybe ask the person. If it's a blogger, ask them, like if you're allergic to one of the ingredients, they might have a suggestion for something else. That's usually the problem.
Yes, I actually think it's a good idea to actually read the recipe out loud, if you can, to yourself or whatever, because I think the way we read nowadays, we skim so much, and baking is so much more exact than other cooking, that you could miss that it's 1 1/3 as opposed to 1/3 or something like that, and it could really mess you up, because baking still is a science. When you, like you said, you have people substituting things out, that's what happens. It's not going to come out. It's not going to come out good anymore.
I think it's good to experiment. Just like know that it's not the author's fault if it doesn't work. Oh, and also oven thermometer. That's the other thing. Always have an oven thermometer, even if you have a brand new oven. You swear is totally accurate.
Yeah, I second that.
That changed
all
my
ovens
life.
are liars.
Oh yeah, all ovens. Yeah, that's. I feel like I'm Oprah. That's a tweetable moment, guys. No, I'm kidding. That shows you what I do on my weekends when I watch Super Soul Sunday. Just kidding. No, I changed my life. I think Nichelle and I have talked about this on a couple of shows where I burned everything, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? Why am I burning every single thing that I'm baking? And then someone said, get a thermometer. So I've got a thermometer, and my oven was off by like 50 degrees.
Yeah.
And so now it's almost like if anyone touches my oven, it's like I know the number where I'm like, oh, it needs to be 400. You need to put it at 350 because it'll be 400, but you won't know that. Because my fire alarm would go off like almost daily. It was terrible. My neighbors were like, what the hell's going on? This woman is losing her mind. I have a question about eggs, because we were talking about them a second ago, and I was reading some stuff online. It said that the thing with eggs and making substitution is you have to realize if you're using eggs for binding, or if you're using them for if you're leavening. So is that true? Like you have to make sure, like when you're thinking of a replacement for eggs, you have to go like, this type of egg replacement will work better for this versus this?
I think you can think that way. I think it sounds a little bit too difficult, but I mean, you're using them for both binding and leavening. It's not like this egg knows if it's binding or leavening or not. But there's some things work better with flax eggs, some things work better with bananas, or they just work a little bit differently. So I don't know, for me, I used to think flax eggs weren't great in everything. Now that we have golden flax, I think flax is the go-to for me, because it's the golden flax you can't see. I didn't want to use the brown flax seeds in chocolate chip cookies, because then you could see little flecks. but now you can't see them, so I basically use a flax egg all the time.
What is that? What
A
can you
flax
just?
egg?
Yeah. Can you just describe what that is? Because I use flaxseed in my
Yeah.
smoothies, and I see the color there. So I'm like,
Right.
is it just a color difference, or is it the meal, or how is that? What is
You
that?
mean flax seeds are just little tiny seeds, and when you
Yeah.
when you blend them up with a liquid, they get very. I always pronounce this word wrong. Viscous. Did I pronounce it wrong? Okay.
I have no idea.
And you
Just
can
go with it.
feel
Just go
It's
with
kind
it.
of slimy and
Yeah,
and
goopy.
goopy. There you go. Thank you. You can take over now. So yeah, I mean, so vegans and people that bake without eggs call them flax eggs. I usually mix it with a non-dairy milk, about a tablespoon of flaxseed to a quarter cup of liquid, something like that.
Makes me think of like the boba things, like the balls, the
The
gelatin balls.
tapioca thingy.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
how they just kind of expand or get real kind of
Yeah.
goopy. What about custards and quiches and stuff like that? Like, what do you guys think about? I mean, is that like a more of a tofu thing or an egg thing, or not an egg replacement item? Which is better for that type of baking?
Well, for custards, I actually don't use any of those replacements. It's usually more playing around with different starches and things like that, and even sometimes agar, like a seaweed kind of gelatin. And quiches are like a whole other animal. Usually I would use tofu for that because it's more of a textural thing that you're trying to accomplish. But going back to your original question, I don't know how to tell what an egg does in a recipe. Like, I have no idea how from one to the other, like if the egg is binding in this one and leavening in another one. Like, I have no clue how I would figure that out. So it's usually, for me, a matter of knowing how the different replacements react and knowing, like, to Issa's point, like flax seeds can sometimes have a little bit of a nuttier, kind of heartier flavor, so I know that they work really well in like muffins and things like that, but maybe if it's something that has a little bit more delicate of a flavor, I might want to use like a non-dairy yogurt or something like that. So it's kind of just understanding how the different replacements work. Like, bananas are a great replacement, but they make everything taste like bananas. So if that's a deal breaker for you, then use one of the other ones.
There needs to be like a cheat sheet. It's like
There is.
oh, there is. I was like, is it on your? It's like, if you like banana flavor, then like go in this direction. If you like, this direction, go in this direction.
Like a flow chart.
Yeah, just something super simple. It's like, if this is what the answer, then go here. Now, do you guys have in your books? Do you guys have anything for folks who are really going to try to dive into this, like an explanation on some of that stuff, or can you tell us a little bit about your books, and do they sort of solve a little bit of that problem, like if I'm completely confused?
My first book, I wrote a guide to egg replacing that I still pretty much use and is still pretty accurate in Vegan with a Vengeance. And the 10th anniversary edition just came out with an updated version of it. So, but
congratulations!
Thanks. You can Google it, just PPK egg replacing, and it's been online for like 10 years or something like that. But it's still accurate info, I think. I just think most things have been invented already. I mean, the biggest stumbling block is the egg whites, which I don't really deal with. I don't F's with that because that's like where you get into some deep science and deep technique that I just feel like a home baker doesn't necessarily. Suddenly you go vegan and you think you have a meringue deficiency. I need meringue. So I let other people do that. I think Sweet Marisa in New Paltz, have you ever had her meringues? They're so good. So
I just did the the chickpea meringue.
Yeah,
thing
the aquafaba.
exploded, just exploded the internet the last couple weeks, and I started screaming in my kitchen when a meringue started forming in my mixer.
Did it work?
Yeah, it really did. You literally take a can of chickpeas, you drain, you keep the liquid, so you drain it, you take the liquid, you put it in your mixer with a little bit of sugar. There's recipes online. There's a bunch of really good ones already that people have like come up with somehow, but and you just whip it, and it just fluffs up into meringue. And it's something about the protein from the chickpeas that like helps make that happen. But it's crazy. It's exactly like a fluffy meringue, and you can bake it into little crispy cookies. And I've already seen people doing like macaroons with it. And this my friend Kelly on her website, Seitan Beats Your Meat, she did vegan Lucky Charms with it. She piped little tiny Lucky Charms marshmallows out of it and like, bake them off. And so
we have meringue now.
It's, yeah, I mean, there's pretty much nothing left. That was like the final frontier.
All right, we're done.
That's great. That's great. I just tweeted chickpea meringue must investigate, because I was going to ask about, actually, my next question was about frosting. And I've actually made like a coconut milk-based frosting, and I know you can make almond milk frosting. So what are some other other frostings that you guys make?
The easiest one for me is just taking a can of coconut milk and sticking it in the refrigerator for like 4 hours, and then you open it upside down so that like all the solids are at the very top and you can scoop them out, and just scooping that with like some melted vegan chocolate chips and whipping it all together. It's a really like almost like a ganache. So the coconut fat gives it a lot of like replaces heavy cream, and then the chocolate chips add deliciousness because they're chocolate chips. So that one's super easy, and it's 2 ingredients, and it's like the simplest for me. But there's I mean, it's kind of like you can swap out, you can use vegan margarine instead of butter for your favorite buttercream. I haven't played around with meringues yet, but I'm very confident with the chickpea recipe that you could do a meringue. Otherwise, I pretty much turn to all of the frosting recipes that are in Issa's books.
Okay.
Well, I actually stopped using margarine a couple years ago, so even the non-hydrogenated kind, just because of the palm oil issues in the environment. So I don't use palm oil anymore. But that didn't really limit me, and I started using coconut for a lot of things, and olive oil for a lot of replacing my fats. But for frostings, I use coconut oil, either melted or in a semi-melted form, whipping it up with some sorts of sweeteners and maybe occasionally a starch, and just using that as a buttercream base. And it works really well. I think there's more specific recipes on my site, but that's the basic of it, just using the coconut oil. It's one of the only fats that stays solid at room temperature, so it's really nice. It's a little bit tricky to use. It's a little bit trickier than butter. It has a higher water content, so you need to, a lower water content, so you need to mix it. Sometimes you have to play around with it. You can't necessarily replace it one for one, but it's really buttery and delicious. And if you use the refined kind, which is naturally refined, it doesn't require chemical refinement, then it has a relatively neutral taste. Was that a really boring answer?
No, that was I actually have a follow-up. I want to know about palm shortening, and what's the controversy related to that?
I know vegan baking always turns to like depression and sorrow. Just release your tears into the batter. There's some, you can Google orangutans palm oil.
Okay, all right.
On it, but I did, if an animal's getting hurt, I just kind of don't want anything to do with it. Even if, I'm just kind of like, ugh. And I just kind of think, can I live without this? How can I do this? And then, you find something awesome like coconut olive oil blends.
Good to know. I just had not heard anything about it, and I'm sure everyone who wants to know more, they can Google it. But to take it up a notch, what about baking for kids? I know that some parents have maybe they have decided not necessarily because of allergens, but they have consciously decided to raise their kids in a vegan lifestyle. So what is a good recipe? And we'll take cupcakes off the table, but just like of treats and snacks that are good for kids.
Well, anything. Speaking from my son, he'll eat anything sweet, and he doesn't care what's in it as long as it's sweet. But I try usually, I try to be good and give him something a little bit healthier. So one thing that he likes a lot is these cookie dough balls that we make with like cashews and date syrup and just a few things. The recipe is definitely one of the more recent ones on my site, but it tastes just like cookie dough, but it's really just like vanilla and dates and cashews, and I think there's usually in this kind of recipe there's coconut involved too, probably coconut oil, just a few things, and chocolate chips. Chocolate chips make everything kid friendly, I find, but I've never given a vegan treat to a child and have them reject it. It's a treat, and that's all they really care about. So I don't know, that wasn't like the most clever answer, but kids like sugar, and that's pretty much it.
No, I think I think this is good for parents to realize that they can make something fairly simple, because that sounds like something that you can put in their lunch. It's the balls you talk about, and I am discovering how much I like cashews. I'm allergic to peanuts, so I started eating cashews more, and I'm like, I don't know, I just think they taste great. I'm a big fan of cashews.
I love walnuts too. For some reason, they're like I can go through. You can get like a container. It's like $6-7 at the grocery store, and it's supposed to last you for a while. But I figure that stuff goes a little bit rancid after a little bit.
You need to get it out of there, yeah.
Yeah, you need to get out of there. And I'll put it in front, like on the table in front of the TV, and I'll just be like, oh, it's healthy. I'm gonna grab some nuts. It's probably not. It's probably.
And if you toast them, they're even better.
Oh.
Like just for like 5 minutes, pop them in the a toaster oven. It's so good.
Oh, does it do something to the flavor? Like
yeah, it concentrates it and just makes it a little bit more roasty tasting. So good. All nuts pretty much benefit from roasting. I was gonna say about the kid question. There's this recipe that's as old as the hills for Rice Krispie treats. It has peanut butter in it, but you can use almond butter, and it's just basically brown rice syrup, peanut butter, and Rice Krispies, and it's so good.
Issa, I just want to let you know that the Mew Muse took a screenshot of our chat, and she has a copy of your vegan vegan cookies cookbook. She says the carrot spice cookie is amazing.
Wow.
When did that book come out, the vegan cookies book come out?
I don't know. 2009, 10?
Okay. And how many books have you released so far? I've lost track, so.
Yeah, me too.
You have two. Okay. Because I know it's more than 4, right?
Yeah, I think it's like 8.
Okay.
Wow, congratulations. I would love to know about that process of getting the cookbooks. Did the publishers come to you originally, or did you go to publishers first?
I didn't. I mean, this was like in the age before blogs came with book deals, so I had no idea I could write a cookbook. I was just writing a zine. And then, I had an agent contact me, and that's what happened. So I didn't do anything. I mean, I wrote the book, but I'm not a go-getter. So.
Well, 8 books, you're not a go-getter?
I'm not, but I wasn't like, I'm going to do this. I was just going to do my thing, and it, happened, so it was cool.
Well, it's nice that when opportunity comes, you go for it. You don't get nervous. Yeah. You just do it, because if you've been able to do 8 books, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, what's that pressure like when you have one book come out that you have to, like your audience expects something else? How do you think of your next idea?
Just kind of whatever I'm doing at the time. Right now, my publisher would laugh at me because I'm like 3 years late on a book right now, so I hope he's not watching this. But just wherever I'm at. So like if I'm more, I'm still in my pie phase, but that's how Terry and I write the dessert cookbooks together. We decided to do that. when I moved to Nebraska, I did Isa Does It because I realized how inaccessible some of the ingredients I had used in the past were. So I wanted more something simple, weeknight, really accessible ingredients. So yeah, right now I'm doing an entertaining cookbook, which is funny because I'm like not entertaining at all because I have a restaurant now, so I'm just like not in an entertaining mindset, but I'm gonna get it done. I'm gonna get it done, guys. Don't sue me.
You should have, you know how they have like books where the title says like entertaining. It should have like a little cross between it. Not entertaining. like when you just decide you're like, that's it. I'm sick.
Yeah.
That's cool. Now what about, because every time I go somewhere to a restaurant or something, and like I just got an invite from my brother-in-law, and we're going to celebrate our niece's birthday, and it's like they picked a fish. I don't eat any fish either. They picked a fish restaurant. I am constantly going to restaurants, and I'm constantly going to places in people's homes where they have no options for me. So it's like fish or meat or chicken or something like that. What if somebody wanted to like start with a basic recipe that the most of the group would like that they could bring to a party? What would that recipe look like? Is that like a cake? Is that cupcakes? Is that a pie? Where do you guys suggest people start so that they can enjoy something with their friends and family? Because I'm really tired of basically either eating before I go or feeling like the jerk when I'm looking at everyone like, why didn't you go somewhere I could eat?
Well, if I'm in a situation where I'm eating at a restaurant, I like always do my research first because it's the worst to get stuck there with the menu in your hand and realize that there's nothing here for you. So I try to check it out ahead of time if I can, and if I'm really not seeing anything, I'll call. Sometimes if you pretend like you have an allergy, they'll be a little more helpful than if they just think that you're being obnoxious. And
that's a good idea. I'm allergic to eggs, chicken, beef, pork, fish, shellfish.
They work.
I'm like all of it. They'll be like, "Oh, you're a vegetarian." I'll be like, "No, it's allergy." But I'm not gluten free. Well, they'll probably appreciate that.
They won't get that.
No, it's all the same to them. We don't have anything vegan, but we have this gluten-free dish. Okay.
Speaking of gluten-free, how does that affect any recipes that you guys do? Or have you guys started kind of adjusting any of your recipes to fit that new lifestyle?
That's probably going to be the death of me because it's not how I eat, and I know that it's really popular, and I know that it affects a lot of people, but I just feel like there are people doing a better job of it, and like it's just not anything that I tend to do myself, so I always feel bad when there's somebody wants to know how they can make one of my recipes gluten-free, and I have no idea, but luckily there's been actually a few people who did end up buying my book and converting a lot of the recipes successfully, so I've asked them to share those with me so that I can post the changes that they had to make so that ideally everybody can make recipes that I come up with, but it's definitely not my world, and I'm too stubborn to jump into it myself. Maybe Issa will do it.
I do some gluten-free. Like at the restaurant, I usually have 3 gluten-free dessert options. They'll usually be like a cheesecake and a tart. I do a pastry crust that I won't do gluten-free just because, again, same with me. It's not my area of expertise, but if I can do like a gluten-free cookie crust with the cheesecakes. The coconut cream pie has a gluten-free cookie crust, and then the filling there's no gluten in it. So yeah, I definitely accommodate for it in the restaurant. I'll put a couple of recipes in each cookbook, but generally I feel like if you have an allergy, if you have a gluten allergy, you'll find that gluten-free baking mix that you like that works and everything, and so it's not, you don't have to make every recipe in your book gluten-free. Just find a gluten-free recipe that works one for one that you really love. I have a gluten-free mix that I like to use, but it doesn't have to be that one. Like I really like sorghum, rice, and tapioca flour together. I think that's a great gluten-free baking mix. But people can buy a pre-made one or just find the one that they love and use it.
Issa, tell us the name of your restaurant and where it is.
It's called Modern Love. It's in Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay, Modern Lodge.
Modern Love.
Oh, Modern Love, like this David Bowie song. Okay.
Yeah, I have a shirt on. I'd show you, but I have no pants on. So
Okay.
That's the benefit of doing a Google Hangout. Hey, Nichelle, we did get a question on Twitter from Dorset Vegan. Definitely follow them on Twitter. Hi, everyone. Do you have any tips on making vegan donuts? I haven't been brave enough to try it yet.
Well, I haven't done a lot of fried donuts myself at home, mostly because it makes a big mess and kind of uses a lot of oil, and I'm too lazy to do that. So I bake my donuts most of the time. So I have a couple donut baking pans that are just like cupcake pans, and because I'm baking them, I can use pretty similar recipes that I use for cakes. So I usually start with a good cupcake recipe that I like, and I might make a few switches and sort of make it a little bit less moist, take a little of the moisture out of it, or add a little bit of flour to it, and just bake it. So baked is a good way to do it. But I know for a lot of people that's not a real donut. So
I think a little bit of nutmeg is really nice in a baked donut to give it a little bit more authentic donut flavor. But yeah, the same thing with me. I don't really fry. I'm not gonna I'd rather just make a pie or something. So yeah, I don't know. I think one of my favorite egg replacers for donuts is bananas. So if that helps.
That sounds delicious. I should have eaten before this show because I'm just hearing all these ingredients, and when the show's over in about 15 minutes, I'm gonna go and pig out. Unfortunately, we also have Kitchen Shaman said potato salad and coleslaw. What was that in response to? I forgot. Maybe that's the.
You asked what to bring, but.
Oh.
Potato salad and coleslaw donuts.
Isa, you are listening. I am very happy.
She might have been being funny because I think that's the bad thing about the vegetarian selections. It's all just heavy carbs, unless it's a salad. But yeah,
I'm going to err on the side of trying to be nice. You see, Michelle is the evil one. I'm the nice one.
No, I'm just saying that from knowing someone who's vegetarian, I've seen it been basically just a big carb selection, and
You should see my Thanksgiving plate. My Thanksgiving plate is literally I always feel like this every year. I tell myself this is the Thanksgiving I may break because I look at my plate and I'm like, where's my stuff here? It's all like potatoes, potatoes, stuffing, and like a few other items, and I'm sick of that same plate every Thanksgiving.
That sounds delicious to me.
Bring on the carbs. I know this isn't baking related, but I think people need to use beans more. Just use lentils for their vegetarian friends. Lentils are so amazing and versatile. Beans, navy beans, kidney beans. You can buy some awesome heirloom beans and do so many great things with them. So.
Yeah, I do love beans.
If you're not a mushroom fan, you should become one too.
I don't like portobello mushrooms. Oh,
people do them wrong. They think they have to put tons of balsamic in them, and you just taste it and you're like eating a balsamic sponge. But you can do lots with it. I know it's not baking again, so I feel like I shouldn't.
But that's okay. This is a conversation.
Oh, okay. So we're
if there's vegans who are watching, so definitely. I was gonna say, what about cremini mushrooms? If we're gonna talk about mushrooms, do you like those, Babette, or what's your take on creminis?
I'm like, you have to understand. I am like the most vanilla foodie you will ever meet in your life. I like frosting, cake, pie, like traditional flavors. You know what I mean? I'm not adventurous with my cheeses. I hate goat cheese. And unfortunately, that's one reason why I have not turned really to vegan. I gave up milk. I only do almond milk, which of course now there's this debate about so much water goes into making almond milk that I'm like, I can't win. And then I gave up soy, so I don't do tofu or any of that stuff either for hormonal reasons. I ballooned up into like like 30 pounds, like of just like, what the hell is wrong with me? I dropped the soy and I lost like 25 pounds in like a month and a half. It was actually pretty insane. But anyways, I digress. So I do not like the fancy stuff. I like the classic flavors, very simple, tasty, and unfortunately more on the sweet side than the savory. So,
see, I'm the same way about cheese. I never liked goat cheese.
Ooh, I hate goat cheese.
Like blue cheese is so gross to me, and that was, I think, part of what made that part, because I know that's really hard for a lot of people is giving up cheese, but for me, I wasn't really giving up much because I didn't really like most of it. And now that I only eat non-dairy, like I eat a lot of like nut-based cheeses, cashew and almond and stuff like that, and I'm super adventurous with those. Like I'll try any non-dairy cheese, and there's so many really incredible ones out there now. That's actually like becoming vegan has expanded my palate, so that might help you, Babette, because I was the same way. Like very like I like hamburgers and hot dogs and pizza and like you know, like very standard stuff.
And now I like the one that's on the pizza.
Now that those are sort of like, I have to rethink all of those things. I'm a lot more adventurous with what I'll try, and so that might help you.
You know, I think you may be right. I will be a little bit more adventurous and try some things.
You'll even toast your walnuts.
I know. You know, I'm gonna do that. Now it's worth paying like the $7 or $8 for those darn walnuts, because now I'm going to be like, well, I have to try it because I got to toast it. So we only have about 10 more minutes left of the show. I want to make sure people know where to find you, but also I want to find out what you guys are working on next. Like what is happening for you in the next like year?
Well, I co-founded a seasonal vegan market here in Chicago. It's called Vegan Vortex. We have 4 to 5 markets a year, so our next one is coming up, and I'll be sure to post the date so that if anybody happens to be in Chicago, you can stop by. It's really fun. We have like 25 different sellers selling everything from savories to sweets to confections. We've got people that make handmade goods, things like that, and what ties them all together is that everything that you're going to find there is vegan, so you don't have to ask questions. You can just like stuff your face and buy things and know that everything there is vegan. So that's my main project right now, and I would love to do a second book. I am a few years behind as well, so I'm hoping.
I like how we're years behind, not weeks or months.
I'm trying to think, Natalie, if I have your book here.
I'm at least 2 years behind on that, but
I have your book somewhere. Oh, here. Now
I have it
really
too.
good. Look, I love us. So this one I had accessible. Where is? I know I have the cookie one.
Let's spend the rest of the show looking for Natalie's book.
So I love how it says Bake and Destroy, good food for bad vegans.
We had a big debate about that. My publisher wanted to call it something like kick-ass recipes for badass vegans or something like that.
Here's what I love. What's going on here?
That's the foreword by my one of the wrestlers I used to bake brownies for.
Oh my God, that is hysterical. This guy is crazy. I love this picture of you. It's really cute.
Thank you.
Was it fun taking the pictures and doing the cookbook? This is for both you guys.
Yeah, it was really fun. It's probably the coolest thing I've ever done, was make that book and just have it show up at my house one day, and like it was really cool. I can't imagine like having 8 of them behind me. Like that blows my mind. But Isa, are you gonna have a book coming up where you have recipes that don't call for palm oil based products? Because I will be all over that.
Isa does it. Didn't have palm oil. The revamped Vegan with a Vengeance doesn't either.
Oh, good.
Yeah, all my books going forward don't use it. And then I'm just coming up with any reissue, gonna basically take it out. So
So I'll rebuy all the books.
Okay, good. That's the real agenda there.
Very clever, Isa.
Buy them all again. You did it wrong the first time.
Well, go ahead, Nichelle.
So Natalie, in Chicago, how has the foodie community in Chicago responded to like your vegan initiative? Because I know, like, I mean, we could talk about LA foodies and New York foodies, but Chicago's deep in the foodie land. So I'm just curious of like, how is it growing since you started out, or just kind of let me know what the lay of the land is in Chicago.
I think people would be really, really surprised and impressed by the vegan food scene in Chicago. Not only are there like 10 thriving vegan restaurants now, just exclusively vegan restaurants, but there are options in basically every cool restaurant, every gastro pub. There's like a whole section of vegan friendly items. So it's really pretty amazing for a city that has such a meat and potatoes reputation to see how versatile and how many options there are. So I'm very proud of us, Chicago.
I want to come up for that the event you talked about. When is that?
The next one, oh man, let me pull up the date. The next one's coming up very soon. It's our summer market.
Once you're in the Midwest, everything's in your neighborhood. You're like, oh, that's only 8 hours away. That's cool.
Let's see. Our next market is coming up June 28th, so the end of this month.
Oh, it's really soon.
Yes. I may have misspoken, but I'll post if that was wrong. But that's the last date I had in front of me.
What about Nebraska? Have you seen, since you've moved? How long have you been in Nebraska, by the way, Isa?
I didn't hear your question.
Oh, how long have you been in Nebraska?
5 years.
Have you seen the vegan culinary experience there shift?
Yeah, it's been. There's so many vegan things here now. So a bunch of restaurants that have vegan options. Obviously, my restaurant's all vegan. Just some of either the high-end restaurants do vegan tasting menus, and then also, just the lunch spaces are using seitan and tofu and beans, and it's great. So I always have something to eat, which is really nice because I don't cook anymore. No, I do.
I was telling the folks who are in the show, and this is for you guys watching at home, that we had someone come over yesterday, and they're like, your house should smell like cookies. Like, I would expect you to be baking. And I think when you do work in the food space, especially online, and you're producing content or sharing content or seeing people's tweets, by the end of the day, you've seen so much food that you actually feel like you've cooked like 25 meals in comparison to, I don't know, but people who are basically making their own food or going to a restaurant. I think you're so inundated that it's a little overwhelming. Do you guys find that you're overwhelmed with just the amount of data that's out there right now?
No, never. I can take it all in.
My thing is no one ever bakes for me, and that's like all I really want is for someone else to bake.
That's so bad because they're like, I don't want to bake for you or cook for you because you already do that, and it's like you basically forfeit this really awesome part of your life, which is people don't want to do that for you.
I know. No, please bake for
us.
Bake for bakers.
Bake for bakers.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, guys, our show is coming to an end. We only have about a minute and a half left, or 2 minutes, give or take. Where can people find you guys online? I want to make sure people know to go check you out. Where's the best place for them to interact with you?
At my restaurant, because that's the only place I ever am.
That is true. That is good. Are you guys open every day of the week, like except Monday, or what's your?
No, we're dinner only Tuesday through Saturday, but we should be expanding soon.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm. But my site is thepk.com. You'll go there and realize it hasn't been updated in a year. So, but I really like Instagram for communicating. Yeah. So Isa Chandra on Instagram, ISACHANDRA. So that's basically where I communicate with people now.
Interesting. Yeah, Instagram is, I've noticed that a lot of people are building really strong communities there. Natalie, have you noticed that too?
Yeah, Instagram is huge, which is good because it's forced me to try to take better photos. I was like a really disgusting food photographer, and I'm still not awesome at it, but it's
At
good.
least you realize that.
Oh, I'm aware, yeah. But yeah, that's been a great place to meet a lot of other people and get people's input and see where people are eating in what cities, and yeah, it's definitely a good tool.
And where can people find you online? Where's the best place? Obviously Instagram.
Sure, Instagram. I'm Bake and Destroy there. Same with Twitter. I'm all over the place. You can find me at bakeanddestroy.com. It's kind of the central hub, and everything else comes out from there. And I have to correct myself. The next Vegan Vortex is July 12th. My co-organizer would be super mad at me if I misspoke on this. So July 12th. And you can use the hashtag Vegan Vortex on Instagram to see all of our past events.
Oh,
cool.
Very cool.
I just tweeted out the date, July 12th.
Thank you.
And I follow you on Instagram. I think you were the first person that I saw actually using the time hop post on Instagram, and then I started doing it too.
Don't blame me for that.
No, it's funny because I see how like you have grown, your son has grown. It's interesting to me. Well, thank you so much, ladies. I feel like you guys, after you finish those 2 books that y'all have to turn in, why don't you do something together? You should collaborate. That's what I suggest.
Love that.
Done. But you have to do all the work. Is that cool?
Oh, well, yeah. Michelle and I will do all the eating. And so, Michelle, have we inspired you to try some vegan baking?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know where my dog-eared version of Vegan Cupcakes Take Over the World book is. It's probably in storage somewhere. But I mean, I remember going to the book event for that in a place on the Lower East Side, like it was about 10 years ago.
We realized that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, guys, this is next week. Nichelle, you know who we have? We have the folks from Hello Cupcake are joining us. We're going to be doing a show on, I think, cake decorating. I think that's our topic.
Cake decorating / cupcake crafting. I feel like what they do is like they basically use cake as clay and make different things with it.
I like that, cupcake crafting. That's I like how you presented it. That's kind of cool. I'll have to use that in our marketing on the next show.
Okay.
For those of you who are watching, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, also on Google+, and then also follow us on Twitter. At BakeSpace is my username. And Nichelle, are you using your cupcake blog username on Twitter, or are you using Niche?
It doesn't matter, either or. You can use Niche or you can use Cupcake Blog. It doesn't matter. If they're using a hashtag, I'll find it regardless.
Oh, cool. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we will see you next week. Remember, Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much to our guests for joining us. We learned so much. And I am going to become a little bit more adventurous in the kitchen and try some of these other cheeses that are vegan. So,
Natalie, convert Babette.
I already feel like I'm the most, like, of all the people I know, I'm the person who's like the only one in my little area who's which just sounds weird because I'm in Los Angeles, but like of my family, I'm the only one that's a vegetarian. So it's almost like I'm the one who ruins every single meal. Single time. It's like crazy. And I'm like, it's not so bad. But then they're like, are you going to do it? And I'm like, I just can't. I cannot bring myself to trying meat. So, all right, guys. Well, we will see you guys soon. And thank you so much. Will you guys come back if you have like a book or something you guys want to talk about, or if you want to, if something is seasonal and you think, oh, it would be really cool to talk about, you know, maybe for the holidays, because like all the pies and stuff. You know what we should do? We should get you and Isa, we should get you about pies with some of the other folks that we've had on our pie show. We should do a holiday version.
I could talk about pie.
You could talk about pie. And then Natalie, we're going to get you on another show as well. We're going to find something else that I think for the holidays. Maybe we'll do like a holiday baking thing. But it's nice to have a conversation where it's like most people are going, you know, they're going to make this kind of recipe. But if you need to make a recipe that is vegan or just to kind of open your mind and try something new, it's nice to have that counterbalance within the chat as opposed to just a vegan chat versus, you know, Michelle says the straight cooking or the straight baking. We're going to have to.
I know. I'm figuring out if that's good or is it bad. I don't know. I'm not sure, but I think as there's so many different types of baking out there now, that there needs to be some kind of distinction.
You know, before we give up, I want to, or before we sign off, the Moon Muse said, yes, bake for bakers. She made a hashtag, bake for bakers. My favorite wedding gift was when my friends made cakes for us because I refused to have the stress of making one. So we may have started a new trend here.
I love it.
All right, guys, we will see you later. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Thanks.